Welcome back to That's Entertainment with No, Not Them, the show where Mike Nichols and Chris Brown talk about the entertainment industry as two people who aren't the people you're thinking of only can. Michael, long time no see. It feels like it's been a good month. How has life in America been treating you?
It's been wild. The weather has been wild. My allergies have been wild. It's just wild. I feel like everything is unhinged. Nobody is mentally well at the moment. Nobody. And we're entering into summer, so it's officially, I don't know, hot girl summer. Isn't that a thing?
Oh no, last summer it was brat summer. This year it can be hot girl summer. I don't know what it's all about.
3 years ago, it was white boy summer, according to Chet Hanks, and we loved.
There you go. There you go. We learn something new on this show every day, everyone. We have a big story that we want to dive into, and it comes from our last episode, which we talked about the Oscar nominees and we made our predictions, and the Oscars have come and gone, and we tied.
A
It's
tie?
a
What you mean a
tie.
tie?
14 right for Michael, 14 right for me. Let's start there. Are you shocked at how close it was this year? Or actually how literally close it was this year for our picks?
I'm not shocked as every year I continue to beat you again and again and again. I'm like, you've been inching closer to my number that I'm like, eventually we're just gonna meet in the middle. Because 14 is relatively like if you watch everything and you are actively following it, like 10 to 15 is very average for what you're probably going to get if you're following it actively and looking at the guild awards and things of that variety. Um, uh, I'm not surprised at how close it was for us. There was some wild wins, I feel, but there was also some stuff that I wasn't even rooting for that I'm sad that it lost. I was hoping I was wrong and I didn't.
Well,
I'm sad that they won or
I,
didn't
I
win.
get I guess I have to be the first to admit that I was wrong. I predicted that Wicket was going to get a clean shut out. But it didn't. It did pick up some of the technical awards, or as we like to call them here on my end of this call, the awards that don't really matter at the end of the day,
Incorrect.
because most people don't remember who won the technical awards unless you're Michael or Chris Brown. So let's just put that out there right now.
I am not of the belief that they don't matter because as someone who works and does a lot with this stuff, though that stuff's hard and gets no recognition. So I'm not gonna say that.
I will. I will
Uh,
be the one who says that though. So I
Wild.
will admit you were right. I was wrong. Wicked did pick up, I believe it was two, correct? Because it picked up for,
Yeah, it
go ahead,
production and costumes.
which you kind of alluded to when we were recording the second part of our show, which was the YouTube exclusive,
Yeah.
that was probably, if it was going to pick up anything, that's where it would probably see. But I want to talk about the six big or the eight big categories that we recorded and that was put out on air. And that is the best director, best picture, best actors, best actress, supporting actress, and the two screenplay awards. So first off, Anora was the big winner of the night. Anora was the massive winner, and I didn't expect it to pick up as many awards as it did. Did you?
You and me both. I knew it was probably gonna get Best Picture and Director because it was picking those up pretty much everywhere else. Uh, that was all I was expecting it to get. I wasn't expecting any of the other ones it got. Mikey, uh, film editing, and
Original screenplay.
yeah, I was shocked by all of that. I don't know how that happened. If I'm being 100% honest, that's one of the big things. Like, I don't know how Mikey Madison won leading actress unless there was, in fact, a vote split that happened between Cynthia and Demi.
One of the big things that did come out of those four wins of Best Picture, Best Director, Best Film Editing, and Best Screenplay was Sean Baker became a first in Oscar history. For those who don't know, Sean Baker was the director, film editor, writer, producer of Anora, and he was the very first person in Oscar history of the 97 years that it's been on air that has actually won 4 awards for the exact same movie. It had been done in the past where one person had won 4 awards in the same year, but never for the same movie. And that was Walt Disney
Yeah.
back in, I believe, in the 50s or 60s. I'm not 100% sure right now. But I liked the movie. I'll admit that I really did like the movie. I'm shocked, still shocked that it won as many awards that it did. But the biggest shock, I think, and even you and I texted the moment it happened, was when Mikey Madsen won for Best Actress, because there was no, and even when I predicted it on the show, you kind of went, if you're right, that's out of left field. It was out of left field that she
Yeah.
came in and won. Everyone had Demi winning that, but she didn't. Shocked?
Yeah, the only one that had given the only award that she really picked up from the major ones was the BAFTA,
Yeah.
which rarely even like matches. And that's why I would not have ever considered her. Like she was fine, she was good. Wouldn't have been my pick. I don't know. The movie was fine. The movie was I don't know if it was this like win all the awards good. Like it I don't know. I have a lot of thoughts about Miss Honora winning everything
Well,
other
because
than supporting actor.
y- supporting actor, yeah, which it did not win.
No,
But
it was the only one.
it brings me to the big question that most people probably did not see Anora and probably will not see Anora. And I'm not trying to be rude about that. It's just it probably just not
The
going to
reality.
happen because it's not one of these IPOs that people want to go see, right? So is this the Oscars? We talked about it a little bit on the YouTube exclusive show, but is this the Oscars losing their relevance at the end of the day where they're not giving the awards to the movies that people are actually going out and seeing, and they're going into these artsy films that traditionally have done well since the late 1990s?
I'm going to counter with a very fair question.
Okay.
Is Honora artsy?
It would
Or,
not be a movie that most people would have seen. And when I say
oh,
artsy,
that I agree.
that's what I mean by artsy film, like the romantic comedies, the ones that people are going to see and actually sit down and watch for an hour and a half. Dune 2, arguably one of the biggest films of 2024, didn't really win that much on Oscar night, but compared it to Anora, smashed the box office. Dune 2 was a major success for the movie industry, but Anora, no one went to see in theaters, and I highly suspect that no one will see it probably even now after it has won all these awards
You might see some people decide to go see it. I mean,
or
because the
download it
box,
or buy it from Apple
yeah,
or whatever, right?
it's just one of those situations where like, I, it was fine. I don't know if I would call it artsy. It was just an independent, like, fun film. Like it wasn't like Wicked, which was just like pure box office fun. It wasn't The Brutalist, which was like intensely artistic. It was just the film that got made. I'm just that's it's like Hidden Figures. Hidden Figures was just like a film that got made. There were funny moments. There was like it was like a historical period piece. Anora, not necessarily a historical period piece, but like it's just a slice of life, which similar almost to Moonlight, but Moonlight was even a little more artistic. It was so kind of like unsure of what its umbrella is that I think that's maybe why it did overperformed, and I do think it overperformed because it was something that we see a lot in Broadway that you don't see a lot in films, which is we're just doing a show, it's of the time, it's just a slice of life, it's picks up in the middle of a story and ends before you see the final ending, and you just see like a slice of somebody's life.
the two male awards for acting, Best Actor and Best Supporting Actor, both of us predicted that this was how it was going to go. Adrian Brody for The Brutalist, Kieran Culkin for Real Pain. Can I just say, Kieran Culkin needs to do more stand up because I think he's actually kind of getting into a like comedic era right now, and it seems like people enjoy his comedy, which I was thoroughly impressed about. His journey along this whole award show season has been undeniably one of the standout moments of the award show sort of catalog, where if he won something, he went on stage and didn't make it long and boring like Adrian Brody did, where he went on for what seemed like 12 hours, but Kieran Culkin got up there, made his jokes, and walked off. First off, what did you think of Adrian Brody's 12-hour speech, basically throwing his gum at whoever he threw his gum at, Harvey Weinstein's ex-wife, and his I've been up here before, so you don't need to play me off moment.
Yeah, that whole thing, he's just interesting. Adrian Brody is an interesting fellow. He is incredibly talented and he knows it. And I
He
don't
is the male
love
version
that.
of Daniel Day-Lewis.
Yeah, but Daniel Day-Lewis is not hot take. I don't think Daniel Day-Lewis is that good. I think Daniel Day-Lewis is just a method actor and it is a lazy form of acting.
Yeah.
And so I think Adrian Brody is a brilliant actor. I just think he has an ego. Like Daniel Day-Lewis also definitely has an ego. Leonardo DiCaprio has an ego. I mean, the reason there was that whole give Leo an Oscar because it's Leo campaign, and it's like when he does something that earns an Oscar, he can get an Oscar.
I would agree wholeheartedly. Kieran Culkin, did you think his speech was good?
I thought it was fine. I thought it was funny. I then went on the internet, and the internet didn't find it funny, and I just shut the internet off.
Well, I found it hilarious. I laughed and I thought it was better than Cats the movie. Let's put it that way.
I love
Oh,
cats,
the last
not the movie.
the last category I want to talk about, and this was the other one that we had divided in the top six there out of the top six categories, not including the adapted screenplays, which would make it eight. We had three that were split. I chose the wrong director, you chose the wrong best actress, and you chose the wrong best supporting actress. You went all in with Ariana Grande. She did not take it home. Shocked, or are you surprised? Because everything looked like it was going in Zoe's direction. Ariana hadn't picked up that many awards in the sort of lead up to the Oscars. I know you're probably upset because you are a fan of the movie, but are you shocked that she didn't win?
No, like you said, everything was pointing in Zoe. I was throwing a Hail Mary pass, football term, and
Like I threw a Hail Mary pass for Best Actress.
yeah, like it was my like if this lands, this is going to be so incredible. Did not land. The plane did not land. It just blinked it like Amelia Earhart herself blinked out of existence. Um, I'm not shocked Zoe won. However, her behavior afterwards is questionable. That I think is the biggest shocker is that she was giving interviews and there was folks from the Mexico press saying like, "Hey, what would you say to folks like me who find Amelia Perez very offensive as a Mexican woman, as someone with trans friends that feels that this is like very dismissive and disruptive and like harmful to that community?" And Zoe Saldana looked at her dead in the face and said, I don't find it offensive. So therefore, I'm telling you, like, basically went off and dismissed this woman and was like, you're wrong because I'm not offended. And I'm Dominican. And like, very much like, you're not what? Like, she's like, we're telling a story about Mexican people. I don't understand why you don't like it. And very much like refusing to listen to any kind of critiques or feedback of like, hey, this movie was kind of an issue all around. And people had a lot of, valid concerns and criticisms that and you just won. Like, this is an opportunity to be like, you're right, I hear you, blah, 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 blah. And she was like, I don't find it offensive, so it's not offensive.
Wow.
Didn't love that.
I wouldn't either. We talked about it briefly a little bit, but I want to dive into it a little bit more. But was this Ariana Grande's one shot?
No.
Do you think she gets nominated next year for Wicked
Yes.
Too Good or Good Forever or Good Life or
for
I've
good.
Got a Feeling for Good. Do you think she gets nominated?
Wicked 2, I've got a feeling. I was waiting for Wicked 2 Electric Boogaloo to jump up.
Mamma Mia, Here We Go Again.
Wicked 2, here we go again.
There you
Um,
go.
I think she gets nominated. Honestly, I think part of the issue with Cynthia and Ariana is folks are going to do the whole, well, they're going to get it next year, obviously. And I think that because it's two movies as put together,
Yeah.
people are going to go, oh, yeah, we didn't. We really should. So I think they both have a stronger shot next year. But also, there could be another movie that rolls up like The Brutalist, where it's just, sorry, that performance was just so much stronger. But
Well, and The Substance, right? And Honora.
yeah,
There's always going to be those ones that go, oh, a little bit better. Um, can we talk about Conan O'Brien? Do you mind if we talk about Conan
loved.
O'Brien? Yes. So I think this is the first time that I actually, while I didn't watch it live while it was going on because I was working at the exact same time, I did watch it afterwards because we TiVoed it, which is not a thing anymore. But I recorded it on my satellite or my TV cable box, and then I rewatched it afterwards. He did amazing. Like he was much better than Jimmy Kimmel, which had done it for the last few years before that. And I'm so happy that the Oscars and ABC decided we're going to pick Conan O'Brien to host next year already. And they've already signed him up. I think Conan has a new gig in store, unless, and this is the bad thing about these award shows, you have one good hit and then it goes down from here because there's always that case where you bring someone back and like, oh, maybe that was just a one hit wonder. So I think Conan can do it. I think he did a fantastic job. His musical numbers are great, but what did you think of his performance?
I thought he was great. My issue, I think, with bringing him back already is that it gets stale. Like the same style of joke, the same style, like, okay, it's another Oscars, okay, it's another Conan. Because like Jimmy Kimmel, his first time, everyone was like, wow, this is great. And they went, great, we're gonna do him for like five more. And like Neil Patrick Harris has hosted the Tony Awards like four or five times now. And the first few times were phenomenal. And then it just kind of went like, because it gets stale with award shows. Yes, find hosts that you like and maybe cycle through them. Like, I'd love to see Ricky Gervais. I don't know if Hollywood wants to see Ricky Gervais walk in the room because he doesn't pull a punch or he doesn't hold back. But like, that I would love to see. Like, Conan took Ricky Gervais style shots, which was perfect.
His attack on Canadian rapper Drake landed like a thud at the halftime show because I think a lot of people who are watching goes, "Who's Drake?" Because that is not the area where I would assume most people are paying attention to who Drake is in the Oscars. I could be wrong. I truly could be wrong, but I don't know if it was the cultural reference that most people would have gotten because traditionally those who do watch don't aren't the age demographic of that type of genre of music, but I could be wrong. I truly could be wrong.
Maybe it's
But
the millennial in me. Like, I feel like everyone kind of knows Drake's like a huge name. That's
you
being
know
like,
Drake, but you don't get the reference that he was trying to make, right? Because I don't know the full beef, what's going on with whoever the person who sang at the halftime show and Drake. I just know that there's beef and something about a CD and something about something, and that's and I'm not trying to be rude here. It's just I there's some
that's
jokes that I was
fair.
like, maybe this doesn't land as much as I thought because unless I knew exactly what you were talking about, I just wouldn't have gotten the reference, right? But I knew a little bit to get through the, oh, that's funny. He made a halftime joke.
I think that I think his joke about Carla Sofia Gascon, don't tweet about me. I think that joke was more niche than the Drake joke.
Possibly, yeah. Truly possibly. And she did uh, go into it afterwards and she said, yeah, I found it funny. So it's always great when these celebrities do actually have a humor and they're willing to laugh about themselves. Um, did you watch it on TV or did you stream it on Hulu?
I don't have cable, so we streamed it on Hulu. No, YouTube TV. We watched it.
YouTube TV, okay, because there was controversy around them trying to stream it on Hulu and it glitching out, and there was a lot of backlash. Here in Canada, we
Hmm.
don't have Hulu, so you had to watch it on CTV or CBC or whatever channel you got it on. I think it is CBC CTV that aired it. I think I'm 90% sure it was CTV, because that's where we recorded, and I just skip through the commercials because that's what I do. Um,
Vibes.
if if the Oscars are moving to this whole streaming platform and going to stream the Oscars only on streaming services, you better get your act together because I guarantee you, if you have a hiccup like you had this year with Hulu, next year most people are not going to be tuning in. And I think it was Kate Blanchett actually, who I just read a report from. I think it was I was at a hotel room last few days because I was off on the road, and I read a report where Kate Blanchett said we need to go get away from like airing the Oscars and just have a celebration where it's in a room and people just enjoy themselves because 3 hours for an award ceremony, most people aren't tuning in for the 3 hours. And I kind of agree with her. Like, are the Oscars that important in 2025 where they need to be 3 hours long and we need to see every single award? I don't know. Do we only need the top eight and the technical awards are like the daytime Emmy Awards where they're like shuttled to the back of the room and just, and I know Michael's about to like pounce on me because I'm telling the technical awards to just sit in the back of the room and be heard and not seen, basically, or be seen but not heard. What's your thoughts on the Oscars still being 3 hours long? And
So you know what would speed up the Oscars quite a lot? Cut out the amount of commercials that are happening. It's like we give a speech, then we cut for commercial, then we give another speech, then we cut for a commercial. I also don't need banter between like the two people who clearly don't want to be there presenting the award. Neither of them look like they have an interest in being there. And it goes on and on and on and on. And I don't understand why that's still there. Also, we don't need so as great as he was, get rid of the host. Cut all that out. Like, and some of these awards just yes, air them. I think the technical awards do need to be there, but like it turns into this whole big like 3 to 4 hour production because we're not moving. And then you get people like Adrian Brody who are just giving a speech for 45 years.
oh,
And
oh,
like there
oh,
needs to be like a fine or something if you're going to do that. Like if your speech goes over by X amount, you're getting fined. Or even like, I don't know. I think it's important to air it. And I think it's a great way to like have viral moments and have a great way to showcase these films because people sometimes don't know what movies exist to watch until the Oscars and then go back and watch everything. But if you don't televise it, folks
so
aren't going to know half the
I
time.
don't remember what year it was, but it was just recently. It was during the height of the COVID-19 pandemic. I think it was the 2020 or 2021 when it wasn't at the Dolby Theater, right? It wasn't at the theater, and they were literally, I think it was at a train station or a station, and they literally just had individual tables for here's the four actors, or here's the Anora group, here's this group, and it made it a lot more small. I don't need to watch someone walking for 30 seconds down a freaking auditorium to get to the stage. If they're literally all in the same room, all within 5 seconds of that stage, it's going to be a lot quicker because A, you can get right on stage and then get right out. And I'm sorry, I'm not trying to say that the Dolby Theater is not an iconic location for the Oscars, but you need to start shortening it down. You can get away with this award show being 2 hours tops. And I say that respectfully.
Easily.
Yes.
No,
Because
easily
you
without
know
cutting
what?
any of the awards.
I complained a little bit prior to the show in our last recording about the musical acts being cut this year. I didn't miss them. I went, oh, okay, I'm good. So
I
let's.
miss them,
I didn't. I did not at
but
all.
this is where I'm confused. We cut the musical acts, but then it was 35 minutes longer this year than it was last year. So what are we doing?
Yeah.
And it's that is that is from a producer standpoint. That is the issue, is the producers are trying to throw in too many jokes, too many gags, too many bits. It's like, do you want it to run like clockwork, or do you want to just have a 4 hour block of time and just call it a day? Because like, come on.
I agree wholeheartedly. While we are moving off into our next segment, I will say that the 2025 Juno Awards, which is the Canadian version of the Grammys, but much better in my opinion because they're Canadian, are taking place on March 30th, 2025. Michael Bublé will be hosting the event. We are actually recording this episode prior to the awards being handed out, so we will not have the full breakdown and the winners and some of the top choices until our May episode. So hopefully by then, Michael will be able to get up on the Canadian knowledge of our music industry besides Justin Bieber, Drake, and Celine Dion. And we'll have a complete recap of that in our May episode. Also, in our May episode, the 13th Canadian Screen Awards, or for those who might be of a certain generation like I am, for the awards formerly known as the Genie Awards, are not going to be released. The nominees will not be released until after we've recorded this. So, in our May episode, we will be diving into the 13th annual Canadian Screen Award nominees. So, hopefully, by then, Michael will learn about our great TV industry and film industry up here in Canada. Are you excited about that, Michael?
I'm very familiar with the TV and film industry. I watch Schitt's Creek. I watch the CW television programs all filmed in Canada. I'm very aware. I am excited.
I'm excited too because we want to make sure that we do our Canadian audience a service by talking about the Canadian movie, television, and music industry. But until then, we have a few other things that I want to talk about. And I want to talk about the TV industry as a whole. One of my favorite shows that's been on Disney Plus, the first season came out, and second season is, I think, in the middle of production right now, or just about to come out, is Percy Jackson, and that is the Rick Riordan story about Percy Jackson, the son of one of the Olympians, and his journey through learning about who he is and all the greatness that he has to come along. I think that altogether there's about 9 books in the first Percy Jackson and the Olympian story, which starts with the Lightning Thief and then goes into the Sea of Monsters and then goes into the Titan's Curse. This show was picked up for a third season prior to the second season even airing. So as someone who has lived in Hollywood, Michael, who has followed the TV industry a little bit closer than I have, probably, what makes a good show to be pick up worthy for the studios in today's age, do you think?
Luck.
Is that really all it is?
Yeah, there's shows that are phenomenal that don't get picked up or have 1 or 2 seasons and get dropped because they're too expensive and people aren't watching. It's a really hard, very fine, very thin balance on, can your show get enough of a viewership? Because it doesn't matter, because there's shows that are terrible, like Supernatural, that ran for 15, 16, 17 seasons that were just, or like shows like Law and Order that have been running with the same formula and the same setup for 400 years. And then there's shows like Sense8, which was on Netflix, that had a season. They brought in the second season and then they immediately canceled it. And it had viewership. Netflix doesn't release their numbers, so we don't know how much. Or like Santa Clarita Diet, also on Netflix, they canceled that. That was fairly popular from what I was seeing, and I thought were brilliant artistic shows that didn't go anywhere. So it really is a weird thing of like, on cable, if it's on cable TV, what time slot does it have? Shows on a Wednesday night tend to do better than a show on a Friday night, which is weird because you would think Friday nights people can stay up later, but Wednesday they want to stay in the house, Friday they want to go out and do something. So it's just a very weird dance of like, where is the show sit? Sunday night shows can do really well, but then Monday night does terribly. It's like there's no rhyme or reason. It's just, what is the show? How popular is it? And sometimes, can we give it enough seasons to where word of mouth blows it up? Like Game of Thrones, the first 2 or 3 seasons were very quiet. I didn't know it existed until the fourth or fifth season. And that's when I jumped into it and went, oh my God, this is like a brilliant show that no one was talking about. Then everybody was talking about it because it blew up. Same with Schitt's Creek. How many seasons was it on TV before it kind of blew up and
And
that people took a chance on?
I think it was until the literally the last season where like it was between the fourth season and the fifth season where people were like, "Oh, this is a great show." And then when that last
Yeah.
season was airing, and that's when it went and won the Emmys for basically everything that it
Yep.
was nominated for. So I agree. Um, this is a huge bet though for Disney Plus to throw because Disney Plus has the hardest time of keeping shows on their streaming platform, and by keeping shows as in like adding more than just one season to it. Uh, I don't know many people who've watched the Percy Jackson show. Maybe I could be wrong, but is it big down in the States? Because when I speak to people here in Canada, it doesn't seem like a lot of people are going, "Oh yeah, I remember that Percy Jackson show." So is this just like you said, that word of mouth? They're just hoping that maybe those who know about the Percy Jackson world, the Rick Riordan literally world that he has created in the books, becoming hopefully becoming a bigger thing, and then they can spawn off into all these different, and I hate to use this analogy, but the MCU of Percy Jackson, the Percy Jackson universe, where they can have 15 different TV shows, and then it's going to be so inundated where everyone's going to lose interest.
I think that the thing that Percy Jackson has, this is going to be awful. I'm sorry. This is going to be so awful. It, the reason that like National Treasure, which I thought was equally a brilliant show, has that or doesn't have that Percy Jackson has is a white male lead.
Yep, I can see that.
And that's fully what and like I think Percy Jackson also like the source material is there. It already had a movie. The movie was bad.
The
I
first
think
one
that
was
the
good. The
show
second
is
one was horrible.
oh, I didn't even know they had released a second one. I thought the first movie was awful. I think that the reason that this story works as a TV show, and I think especially with a lot of literature that is adapted from to film or to television, I think when you look at something that is a lengthy series, like Harry Potter probably would have done better as a TV show, and I think if you looked
Do
at
you
it
think it's
now,
going to
like
do
there are
better?
yes, I think that because you can explore the fans of of a book. We're all crazy. We want to see every little plot line, detail, storyline, etc. I have a friend that loved the comics of Walking Dead and refused to watch the TV show because he did not like that they did not copy paste what happened in the
Yeah.
comics. Like he's like sometimes they did, a lot of times they didn't. And and so it's one of those situations where I think that with Percy Jackson, it's going to do well. It's going to do well regardless of what happens and I think that it's well written, it's well acted, it's well directed. I think it's got a very long shelf life at least for this storyline. I don't see any of the others getting picked up, but I could be wrong.
Quickly, Harry Potter, new HBO Max show that will be coming out, I think in 2026, if I'm not mistaken, has been basically the entertainment industry of like any leak that has happened. They have speculated, they have beat this show with a like a book to try and make sure that everyone knows that this is being made. It has been reported, and he did confirm that John Lithgow will be the Albus Dumbledore for the entire series, which is his basically his swan song, as he has so eloquently put it. Are you with everything that's gone on in the world of Harry Potter and all the controversies that surround the author? Are you shocked that they're doing it so close to the just the end of the Deathly Hollows Part 2, like almost 10 years ago? Are you shocked, or are you surprised that they're doing it in this fashion where it's so quick and sort of with a brand new, completely underrated cast that is going to blow this into a completely new generation where some who might not have seen Harry Potter will now actually go out and see it?
I think I don't hate the timeline. I think the biggest reason they're doing it is because they want to use the IP. They have the IP. It's popular. Those Fantastic Beast movies just didn't perform well. Like they weren't strong films. The first one was the strongest one, and they just got progressively worse. I think that we're gonna see
Are you going to
people are gonna be
see Rupert
apprehensive.
Grint in it?
No, and that's also the thing. She wants to do other things with the cast, and they will not touch her. Like none of the original cast, like for the most part, wants anything to do with Miss JK. And anytime they're like, "Would you go back and do a Harry Potter project?" They're like, "Absolutely not. No interest." And so this is a way for her to try and restart it, tell the story right according to the books, and then she can do things like make a Cursed Child movie with the cast from the TV show, do more spin-offy things. It's a way to keep the IP alive. I think that that's why it also feels like, yes, it's so recent, but like you could make the same case for the Percy Jackson.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. I want to turn to our last segment before we turn to our recommendations for this episode, because I am cautious of time, and I want to talk about your favorite subject, and it's kind of becoming my favorite subject too, as I continuously watch more and more YouTube clips of Broadway shows, and I want to go to the bright lights of Broadway. Where a show that I am actually really excited to see, Smash, will be coming literally within a few weeks, if I'm not mistaken, opening soon, or if it hasn't already opened for reviews or critics, or I don't know how it
Previews.
works. Previews, that's the word I was looking for. So in a online article by playbill.com, the one of the I think it was one of the actors came out and said, for those who have basically watched the TV show, be prepared because the stage show will be different from the TV show. Now, I'm a little upset about that because as Michael also said in the last segment about TV shows, I loved Smash the TV show. I thought it was a great show. I think both seasons, I think it should have ran for a lot longer, but it was at that the dying edge end of the sort of TV musicals that we don't see anymore. Do you think this was the right move to try to bring in a new generation of fans to the smash hit and hope that the bombshell will really hit hard and get people liking the Broadway show more than the TV show?
I never watched the TV show,
Really?
which a lot, very hot take. A lot of theater people watched the first episode or two and said, no thanks. Um, I don't know why, but I watched the first episode and went, this is not for me. Um, it's just, and I think it was because it was so unrealistic that you would have Megan Hilty, who looks and sounds like, what's her name? Marilyn
Marilyn
Monroe,
Monroe. Yeah.
competing with Miss
Catherine
Catherine McPhee, who looks nothing like Marilyn Monroe, is a weaker singer than Megan Hilty's character and Megan Hilty. And watching the acting that they're doing in the audition, a weaker actor than Megan Hilty's character was. There was no universe where they're like, we just don't know. No, they do know that her, Miss Hilty, that's the one. Like, it just was unrealistic. And that, I think, is what people are, because also they have 2 years of a TV show that they have to condense into a 2.5 hour stage show. Or you lose people. Because there's no universe where this can be 3 hours and people would willingly sign on. Zero universe. So it has 2.5 with the intermission in there, max.
So can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Put on your forecasting hat for a second. Does this last longer than a month?
Yes.
You think so? Why?
Well, it's got to get out of previews. And previews are
That
about a
that
month.
doesn't mean anything. That literally doesn't mean anything. And you and I have chatted about that on our past
True.
iteration of the show, where a show can last like 2 weeks or a week and it just closes down.
So when it's in previews, it's not getting reviewed, and its previews is a month. So it's going to be at least there a month. It could open and then close on opening night. I don't know. I've not seen tonight, I think, is the first preview.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the
Which,
calendar
for
in
those who
March
are
20.
watching this later on, this is in March what we're talking about, not April.
Sorry, it's how the magic's made. Um, so we'll see once people get on, and that's the thing. People could get on TikTok, could get on the internet and be like, "This is the best show ever," like they did with Death Becomes Her, and now it's a smash hit. Or they could just get on to the internet and be like, "This is not great. Don't go see it." I think with this in particular, opening so close to the Tony Award nominations, they're gonna wait and see if they get nominations. If they get a ton of nominations and they get good reviews, or even like mid to mediocre reviews, it probably will run through to July. Um, but if it does not get good reviews and it does not get many nominations, its shelf life is going to be probably closed in May.
We will certainly be watching this. Are you excited for it? Are you like, would you go see it if it wasn't a TV show prior to this? Because I think there's a lot of people
I
who may go see it just because it was a TV show. But for someone who has the theater background, do you think a lot of theater people are going to go see this just for the
Yeah.
experience, or just to say, okay, let's give it a chance because it may not be exactly what the TV show had?
I think that you're going to see a lot of theater people go because it seems more realistic now. It's not two girls competing for the same role. It's the one girl has it and the other's her understudy, and there's issues that way. Like they fully changed a lot of the like overarching that you can do over 2 years. Like, no, this is all like something that happens in one night.
Yeah.
And so I think that you're going to see people give it a shot. It's got a lot of pretty good names attached to it, which is really cool. Um, I I'm very curious about it. I would see anything. Like you point me to Broadway, I'd go see it. Like I have no interest in seeing Hamilton. I would see Hamilton for the right price. I see Moulin Rouge twice because it just happened to work out that way, and I didn't like it the first time. Did like it the second time, so I think it was the actor. I didn't like the actor playing the Christian character,
Hmm.
but it's I would see anything on Broadway. It's just the issue is tickets, which is a huge issue right now with the Othello is $900 tickets right now to see Idris Elba and Jake Gyllenhaal.
Not
I
paying
think it's
nine hundred
Idris
dollars
Elba.
to go see a Broadway show. I don't care who you are, but that's just me.
Absolutely not. And George Clooney's show has got like $400 nosebleeds. Like, George, no.
That's why I'm okay with going to Broadway in North Broadway or Broadway on North or whatever it's called, where the Broadway shows tour Canadian stops and it's called something in Canada. So I should know, but
Tours are
I
great.
I had tickets, but I didn't get it. But anyway, um, I want to turn to our last segment, and it is our three roundtable segments where we go through, we answer questions, we give our hot takes, and we don't judge, but we listen. And today
But we
we're doing
judge.
our recommendations. Recommendations of what you should be reading, what you should be watching, and what you should be listening to. So, Michael, for you, what is your recommendation for this beautiful start of April 2025? Because you did not just say we're in March, but we're totally in April right now.
Obviously. I just read Miss Suzanne Collins' book, Sunrise on the Reaping, the latest in the Hunger Games series, within 24 hours because I could not stop reading it. And I think it is her strongest piece in the entirety of that series. It was so good. The character I thought I was going to hate, loved. Miss Maisley Donner, obsessed, icon. And we all know how it's going to end because if you've read the first three or if you've seen any of the movies, you know the character Haymitch, you know he's there, so you know who wins. Like, not a spoiler, he's in every single of the first trilogy that was the big box office. So it's not like, because it's a prequel to, yeah. Loved it. I went in going, okay, we're gonna like Haymitch, but like whatever. And sometimes she drops in characters, and it's like, this is a little fan servicey girl, but like I'm living because I'm a fan and I needed to be serviced here. Um, but I think that it's a great, I want her to write more. I would like for her to write more books in this world. Honestly, if she could write one for every single game, I would be the happiest little person in the world.
Is she planning
How about
more, or
you?
is this the last of the other?
She wasn't planning anymore, and then she was inspired by the pandemic and wrote. Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, and then she was inspired by the political climate and wrote this one. And so she only writes when she's inspired by what's going on politically and wants to comment on it. So it's like, oh, girl, we really doing this. All right, shoot. Um, love Miss Suzanne Collins. And I fear I'm about to enter a Hunger Games hyperfixation.
I'm along for the ride on that one. My recommendation is in the form of a TV show, which you can find here in Canada on CBC Gem or on Netflix, anywhere else. I believe it's in the United States as well, but Michael will have to tell me if it is or isn't. But it's called North of North. A woman, a young Inuit mother who dreams of reinventing herself in her tiny Arctic community of Ice Cove, a town where everyone knows everyone's business, spontaneously finds herself at the end of a very public, bitter divorce. This is in the same lines of Schitt's Creek. If you loved Schitt's Creek, you will love North of North, sorry. I found it hilarious. I laughed the entire time. Yes, there's some moments where you're like, "Aw," but the acting is great. It is by people who work and live in northern Canada. If you have not seen this show, highly recommend that you download CBC Gem, which is free to download, free to sign up for an account. You can pay $4.99. I think it's $4.99. It might be $6.99 now for ad-free streaming, but the free version is great. And honestly, you will laugh, you will cry. Again, it will be better than Cats the movie. So highly recommend you live that download, watch that because it is probably one of the funniest things I've watched on TV in some time, and that's coming from me that loves to laugh and doesn't get to do it that often. My other recommendation, and this is my second recommendation, and it comes in the form of a song. And for those who have followed me and follow my social media pages, you know that I've been traveling a lot over the last month and a half, and I've got a lot of traveling. And there's one song, I don't know how I stumbled upon it. I don't know where it came from, but it popped up in my Apple Music catalog, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I'm pretty sure I had it on repeat for the about an hour and a half road trip that I had from Lethbridge all the way to Calgary. And it is from, I'm going to probably get her name wrong, and I apologize if I do, but M. Behold, Beihold, and the song is called Numb Little Bug. Highly recommend it to anyone. It is a popper, it is a tune, it is one of these things that you just listen to and it's like a little earworm and it gets stuck in your head. So, yes, that is my second recommendation. Do you have a second recommendation before we wrap up here, Michael?
It was a popper.
It was
It
a
was a
pop.
tune.
It was a popper. It was a tune. My leg was
No,
I was tapping along. If I had some spoons, I would have spooned it out there.
God bless you. Um, what recommendation? Oh, if the Shuck tour comes through, go see it.
Okay.
Shucked the musical. It was phenomenal. It's the Hee Haw musical, if you know Hee Haw.
Yeah. Which I think it is coming to Canada. I think it's coming through the Canada. So highly recommend. I would look forward to seeing that.
It's
Um,
funny.
so that's it. That's it for another episode of That's Entertainment with No Not Them. Michael, always a pleasure to sit down with you and talk about the entertainment industry.
Absolutely. I love doing it. Where else would I be?
For those who want to send us your questions for next month's question and answer session, please do and send it to our social media links or that's entertainment@gmail.com. Actually, no, let's try that again, Chris, because that's not the fucking name of the fucking email address.
Language.
Oh, sorry. For those who want to send us some questions and answers, for those who want to send us some questions for next episode's question and answer segment, you can do that by sending it to our direct messages on social media or by finding the link in the show notes or on the Rogers TV webpage. So until then, thank you so much, Michael. Always a pleasure.
Likewise.